Hello, hedgehogs and hamster balls. My name is TV Skine, and the final episode of Sonic Mania Adventures is finally out, and with it, the final episode of this little mini-series looking at the animation of the Sonic Mania animated shorts. And yeah, I feel like this is an episode where I'm going to be repeating a lot of the stuff that I've already covered in the previous 4 episodes, because frankly, there isn't much of a mystery as to why these animated shorts are good. Something I've touched on before is that they're just really good at the basic execution. And so I figured, instead of spending all of the time in this episode just repeating myself over and over again with stuff I've already covered about the animation, I wanted to talk a little bit about specifically why it is that these animated shorts tickle my soul so well, like why I like them so much, because it's not just that they are technically competent animation that's just kind of good and enjoyable to watch. There's other stuff going on there. First of all, nostalgia. As I've mentioned before, I am an old school Sonic fan. I've never really been a super happy about modern Sonic. It's never really interested me that much, but old school Sonic is 100% my jam. It's the stuff that I was a fan of when I was a child. So these animated shorts planting themselves so hard in classic Sonic and completely ignoring everything about modern Sonic, much in the same way that Sonic Mania itself does, yeah, that's straight. That's to me. That is specifically made to appeal to me as a human person. And so it's no wonder that I like them, but it's also something else, which is a little bit broader, and not necessarily so much to do with Sonic, but animation is one of my favorite things in the world. Like, it's really, I just adore it. It's just so, for me, it's so much fun, and being an artist myself especially, but just watching how artists figure out how to communicate characters, how to make them move in ways that are so believable that you barely even realize that you're watching a cartoon. Like, that's what good animation can do at its best, is that you forget that what you're watching is static 2D images being cycled in front of your eyes at high speed. And I love it. It's just, I adore it. And my favorite animation of all the kinds of animation that there is silent character action. Like, if you think about WALL-E, for example, where almost all of the important story is told through completely silent interaction between characters. WALL-E never says a word other than his name. Eva never says a word other than her name. That is exactly my jam. And that's exactly the same style that the Sonic Mania Adventures animated shorts have chosen. Nobody says a word. You don't need to read any English. There's really nothing going on that where, in order to understand what's going on, you have to speak English or listen to English or even have hearing at all. They are profoundly accessible to anyone who can watch them, because you can put these down in front of a 5-year-old from anywhere in the world, and they're pretty much going to understand what's going on because it's silent. I adore that so much. I love that universality. That's the other thing that I love about animation, is that with good animation, you can make something that will be enjoyable and understandable, and you can communicate with any person in the world. Will be able to see and understand good animation. And so just like, it's also kind of, from an ideological perspective, this is kind of the thing that I feel animation is supposed to do, is supposed to be on a basic level. This is what I feel like the heart of animation is, this silent acting. And everything else on top of that is just like cherries on top. It's gravy. It's extras that are nice to have, but this is the beating heart of what I love about animation. And when it comes to modern animation, I don't want to be an old grouchy grump, although I am an old grouchy grump, but something I've missed in children's animation, and just in animation in general for quite a while, is that silence. Like, it seems like it only happens when someone like Pixar wants to kind of flex their muscles and do a movie like WALL-E, but generally, like, cartoons that are on Cartoon Network or, you know, being played on the modern cartoon channels and stuff like that, and indeed in video games, rely a lot on dialogue. Like, they rely a lot on characters standing still and talking. And this is something that's true. Like, anime, for example. Like, if you take a average episode of any anime, whatever it is, whether it's Dragon Ball or Bleach or One Punch Man or Naruto or whatever the hell it may be, and you pause it and you turn the audio off and then you just let it run, what you realize really, really quickly is that most anime episodes are like, the majority of what happens in them is talking. The majority of what happens in them is dialogue, exposition, characters talking to each other, telling each other things. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's lots of good anime out there, lots of anime I love, and this is the same thing with cartoons. Like, lots of cartoons I love. I do adore Steven Universe, even though it's incredibly verbose. Like, there's a lot of talking goes on in that cartoon. I adore it anyway, but this right here what you're seeing on screen right now, this is what I've been missing. Just that dedication to the very basic principles of animation. Just executing on the basics so well that you don't need to talk. You don't need to say anything. Now, this also means, like, a completely silent acting like this with the budget that the Sonic Mania shorts has also means you couldn't do a Steven Universe silent like that. It's not... You can't. You need either an absolutely astoundingly enormous animation budget, or you need to have dialogue, because those are the only ways to communicate a lot of those more complicated concepts and emotions that need to be in there. But this is still what I love. And it also comes down to my relationship with Sonic, because when I loved Sonic, I was a kid. I was 6, 7, 8 years old. I think I played my first Sonic game when I was 4 or something like that. And like... that silent Sonic, that 2D generation Sonic, that was mostly just about going out on adventures and having fun, that was very much my jam. And so these animated shorts for me also represent like I said, it's nostalgia, it's pandering to my nostalgia, but it also represents exactly the kinds of adventures that I would have been interested in seeing from these characters that I like when I was a kid. Like, when I was a Sonic fan, this was the stuff I fantasized about. This was the fan fiction that I wrote in my head. These were the little doodles that I put in my notebook. This was the Sonic, the stuff he was doing. Not being necessarily being supersonic all the time, but hanging out in those amazingly colorful worlds, having adventures, doing stuff, fighting Metal Sonic over the Chaos Emeralds, that kind of thing. That was very much my jam. And so... like, these shorts, this is why I like them so much. This is why I felt like it was important to talk about them, because they're not just, oh, it's Sonic and it's fun nostalgia bait for the old-timers. It's also that it's just... This is what I love about animation. This is a good way to show people what good animation is to me. What it means. Like, if I was to define what is good animation, I could show you an episode of Sonic Mania Adventures short. I really could. Because it's not that it's most exceptional thing in the universe. It's not that it's Ghibli level, because good lord, it's not. It's very limited budget. It's little 2-minute shorts. There's barely anything there, but what's there is just a perfect execution of the things that I love, the things that I like, and that's... to me, that's really valuable. Anyway, I think that's enough rambling preamble, so let's actually get into some of the animation that's going on here. By the way, I like this curve thing. Like, this is a trick that you'll see commonly in, like, a lot of animation, where, like, you don't really have the budget to create a scrolling background, or really going to, like, to have a super widescreen format where you can really see the length of the sky. So a fisheye lens effect like this is a great way to kind of imply scale, where when you need, like, what we need for this shot is to have this huge, enormous, barren plain leading up to the menacing factory where Eggman lives, and he just can't resist making it look like him, which is a weird narcissism about that character. And so having this little curved horizon thing going on, it's just a lovely little shorthand that helps kind of frame the action and make it feel bigger. It makes it feel a little bit more epic and large, and that's just quite nice. And also, I do love, it also helps the composition, because, like, take a look at how much of the screen where things are happening that we need to pay attention to. It's here. It's Sonic and Tails, and it's the Eggman factory. So, like, all of this over here, all of this, is just, doesn't matter. We don't need to know about it. It's pointless. So, by using this... by sequestering a whole bunch of it off into, like, one big color blob, and then having all the detail of the shot right here, it's such an easy way to guide the eye of the viewer. And just in case you weren't paying attention to the right place anymore, you have this little smoke trail just leading your eye, pointing like an arrow directly at Sonic and Tails, so that you see them moving as they head into the factory. And it's really good directing. Like, whoever storyboarded this, whoever directed these shots, they're just really good at the basics. Like I've said so many times, they're so good at the basics. And that's what I adore about them. That's why I turn into a little bit of a giggly fanboy when I watch them. It's just because every time something needs to be done, they use perfectly ordinary, simple, basic techniques to make it happen, but they do it so bloody well. Like, they just do it really, really good. You can see here because notice what's happening in this shot as Metal Sonic is landing, right? This is a robot who's landing with a blast, but it looks more like like some paint that was stuck to the ceiling fell down until, boom, he morphs into himself. which allows, like something we talked about in the last episode when we were talking about the animation of Metal Sonic, is that he is by necessity a very stiff character. Like there's really a limit to how much you can bend him outside of animation smearing. You can't really have him be flexible and bendy, but what you can do is when you do animation smears, that's when you can really take advantage of squash and stretch and the principles of animation in order to heighten the impact of the stuff that he does. As indeed you can see in this smear as he stands up. Whoop. It's a very brief smear. Like, it's really only... his going from crouched to standing up is really only 1, 2, 3. And something else to notice is that there's really limited anticipation and follow-through with him. Now, anticipation and follow-through is before a character makes an action. You're going to see it here in a second. They do this. Like, they do a little... as he's about to spring up again, the animator makes him do a little press down and then kind of bounce up like that. And then once he's up, this is his full upright position, there's a little bit of a bounce back, right? You can see his arms are extended, and then they kind of bounce back, and then they stay there. That's... anticipation is when the thing you do before you make a big action, and follow through is the little settling down again you do after, like that little wiggle of the head and that little contraction of the arms. And it's kind of limited how much you can really do with Metal Sonic, as indeed you can see here, as because you see Sonic begins to react even before Metal Sonic is even on screen. Like, he begins to react here because he's anticipating this. This is what it's all leading up to. So Sonic has a hell of a lot more anticipation on him going on, and the same thing goes for Tails, than Metal Sonic doesn't. His actions, I love these smear frames so much. I also love the expression on Tails over here. It's just a really good expression. And you can also see, even though here, Sonic has pretty much completed his action. Like, he's sprung into the air and he's scared. But take a look at how many more frames of follow-through Sonic gets. Like, there's all kinds of wiggling going on in the air, and then he lands, and his hand smears down. And then you'd think this was the final position, but no, there's a little bit more wiggling going on. And it's the same thing with Tails. They get a lot more anticipation and follow-through than Metal Sonic does. And that's part of why Metal Sonic's motions seem much more stiff and robotic and mechanical than Sonic's do, because Sonic has more anticipation and follow-through. Like, he has more... his body does more stuff before it makes a movement. And that, again, just very good basics. And you can just see it in, like, the way Metal Sonic is animated. Like, he lands, he stands up, hands down, take a look at it if he's caught them, arms up, arms down, grab the things, disappear. No wasted motions. Like, there's no turning around and gloating. There's no kind of raising his head and laughing or pointing at them or taking a moment to compose himself. He's just kind of executing actions one after the other like a computer would. Let's see if we can catch the smear. I also do love these vanishing smears. And they do a couple of clever things here, actually, that we haven't seen them do before. This little after image thing where they kind of blur him out, and then they do color trails for the motion of the gems in the eyes. That really wasn't used in the last one, I don't think. And it makes for a really effective vanish. Like, you really get the sense of him just vanishing at incredible speed, because you get that little after image blur that stays on the screen just for a second to let your brain know that, holy shit, something moved really, really quickly here. And it just works really well. I wonder how they execute the one where he comes onto screen. Yeah, like I thought. You can see here, it's the after image that arrives first, like the blurred image with the color trails showing you where Metal Sonic came from. And then he's just there. And you can see there's a little bit of... I really love this. There's a little bit of follow-through. Once he stops, right? It's not... he doesn't stop and then has to regain his balance or something. He just stops on a dime. But there's still a bit of inertia going on. So you can see he's going to waggle a little bit as I advance. Waggle, 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 waggle. And that's just, again, it's such a clever way to animate the character that makes him look robotic, because it's kind of like a marionette where you kind of, a bobblehead almost, where you just poked it for a second and it kind of waggled a little bit. Woggled. I don't know what the hell a woggle is. A waggle. It waggled a little bit after you poked it, and then it stands completely still like a statue. Okay, I want to see that in action a little bit. So we get the glow of the gem, of the emeralds. Oh, that's clever. See how the engine on his chest, it speeds up. Right? You can see it gets a little speed up animation here. That's barely visible. I don't really think you can see it when the thing is in action. And then they use a lot of visual effects to kind of communicate the power of the Chaos Emeralds coursing through him. But again, even with the power of the Chaos Emeralds coursing through him, Metal Sonic isn't making any unnecessary motions. He's not shaking. He's not vibrating. We are. The camera is shaking and vibrating from the power that he's giving off. But he himself is every bit as stoic and stiff as he's always been. And then we get Sonic here. Like, his reaction is just, oh, hell yeah, a cool fight. Yeah. Once again, that overconfidence, which we talked about in, I think, the very first episode of these animation breakdowns, is one of the defining characteristics of Sonic is that he's a cool guy, he's a nice guy, but he's also incredibly overconfident, and Tails knows it. Look at him. It's like, you sure about that? And as Sonic speaks, I was like, oh, I know how that is gonna end. It's such good acting. Oh, this is really cool. See, we need Super Metal Sonic to move out of frame really quickly, but we also need the audience to be able to read what he's doing and where he's going. We need to be able to see what he's doing, even though he's supposed to be moving too fast for the naked eye. Sonic the Hedgehog. So what do? Well, we give him a red glow on his eye that kind of starts to spin out. And then we use that to cover, like, this is an animation smear. He's just completely smeared out, and we essentially have the eye rushing in towards us. And as that vanishes, that red trail is left behind on screen, telling us visually that something moved from here in this direction here. And all the speed lines tell us that it moved really, really quickly. And you can see as it whips around here, almost like smoke that's been disturbed. It's almost like he's leaving kind of a sonic boom behind him as he moves, which is really nice and really well done. And then there's the collision. Oh, they actually animated a lot more frames of that than I thought. But the thing that delivers the power of this collision is this. It's the fire trail from Super Metal Sonic's engines. And the little smoke thing here that's falling around. That's really the thing that delivers the power, because you can see as that starts to fizzle out and goes away, I love the animation smears. Like, again, what we need here is for Eggman to kind of do a fist pump. Like, he pumps his fist in the air like, ha, yeah, get him. And you can see all of this is done with anticipation and follow-through. He's anticipating right now, and then does the action, and here we are in the final position. But look at all the follow-through that happens with his mustache and little cape as he settles back down. It really delivers the idea, because Eggman is big and fat and round, and he's got a lot of weight to throw around. So having that little jiggle going on there, that really kind of delivers on the sense of his physicality as well. I also love in the animated short itself, for Metal Sonic, when he is Super Sonic, they used the actual Super Saiyan aura power sound from Dragon Ball. It's literally the same sound. Here we see, once again, something that they do a lot in these shorts. Rather than actually animating Mighty punching Metal Sonic, what we do is we get a flash frame, which is really nicely done. This is just really cool. And you can see flash frames, you don't really have to be super exact with it. You can see it's just scribbles and stuff. But that works really well. And then we go from, Mighty just standing there looking, to having already punched Metal Sonic. The actual punch happens here, off screen. And that's kind of a cost-saving measure, because it saves you, because the camera has moved in a completely different direction, the scene is completely different, Mighty has moved a lot of stuff has happened, but because we cover it all up with the flash frame, as though it was a really powerful action that happened too fast to really see, and this is an anime technique that's been common use for a long time, you can get away with making these really sudden, jarring cuts from one completely different scene to another without having to explain or justify how you got your camera, your viewpoint over there. And that's just, it's a cost-cutting measure, because these are animated shorts. They're really, I love that smear. They are animated shorts. They don't have all the budget in the world. They most certainly don't have all the time in the world to make these things. And so, sensibly, when they need to do action scenes, they tend to cut the corners a little bit. They tend to cut some corners, where it's the thing where, okay, we'd rather spend a lot of time and effort and money animating these actions, or we could kind of cut to the chase and show the effect of the actions instead. And that's a directorial choice that I feel like is a good choice for these animated shorts, because they don't, let's be real, they don't have the budget to animate super complicated kung fu anime fight scenes. It's not really in the cards, so they do what they can with what they have. And I think by focusing on the effects of the action, that also does a lot to deliver the character I just love, look at this animation smear. It's just I love it. It's just, and also notice again that in order for the character to be identifiable as Metal Sonic, this is the trouble, right? That Metal Sonic and Sonic pretty much share the same color scheme. Like most of their colors are exactly the same. So how do we identify one as Metal Sonic and the other as Sonic? Well, in the smear, his eyes stay on the model at all times. His eyes are almost always there, and they are the identifying feature that tells you as the audience, even when he's moving, like rotating really fast, as we're about to see, we can still identify that it's him because the eyes are there. And again, this is pure Dragon Ball. Like, this is just pure Dragon Ball. This is the kind of thing you'd see on that anime. But again, you can see the very limited follow-through. Like, he's just been punched into a wall, but he just kind of lands and straightens himself out. There's really no follow-through. And that, first of all, communicates his power, that he's got hit, yes, but it didn't really hurt him. But it also, again, playing up the robot nature of the guy. Oh, that was not what I wanted to do. And so we have it here again. We get these couple of frames, like the characters rushing towards each other. And again, notice the contrast. Because everybody here is just bobbing up and down and moving and kind of breathing, as it were. Like, just moving their bodies, they're jiggling around, they're doing things that organic things do. And Metal Sonic, by contrast, doesn't do anything. Like, his engine is roaring, but nothing else about him moves at all. It doesn't rattle, he doesn't jiggle, he doesn't shake, nothing. He just completely metallic and unbending. It's just so good. But here again, much like with the punch from Mighty, rather than actually animate the fight, as it were, they give us 4 shots of the characters punching Metal Sonic and then 4 shots of Metal Sonic punching them right back, but even harder. And it's... I was a little disappointed when I first saw it, because I kind of, at the final episode, I kind of wanted them to have saved a lot of their budget, saved a lot of their production time to really do some cool fight scenes finally at the end. But on the other hand, that would more be the modern Sonic thing. Like, that's kind of more the thing that modern Sonic is interested in. Modern Sonic is much more in the shonen anime kind of area of the spectrum. That's much more what that is about. Whereas old school Sonic, not so much. Old school Sonic is not so much about beating the bad guys. It's a little bit more about outsmarting them and outsmarting their traps and outsmarting their advantages, which is exactly what Tails does. And again, this... Good lord, stop doing that. This is setup and payoff, by the way. This is exactly the same trap that Metal Sonic catches Sonic and Tails with at the start. And we already know that when that thing collapses, boom, the emeralds pop out. Like, this is just, from a script writing perspective, this is just really good, because now that Metal Sonic has been caught in the trap, once it collapses... boom, the emeralds get taken away from him. And we know that because we already know that that's what the trap does. And the effect of this is that it saves us from a Deus Ex Machina. Because the thing that's the problem is that once Metal Sonic has all the Chaos Emeralds, how the hell are you supposed to stop him, right? He has all the Chaos Emeralds. He can be Super Metal Sonic. He's unbeatable, as we need to see. 4 people can't take him down. So how the hell do we beat him? Well, we outsmart him. We use the rules of the game against him. We already know there's a trap that can extract Chaos Emeralds from people. We use that trap against him. However, think about if Sonic and Tails hadn't been immobilized by that trap, if that trap hadn't been set up, then the conclusion of this scene would be that Tails pulls out a magical technical device and just hacks the world, and suddenly they get the emeralds out of him because of some reason. Like, it would be kind of pulled out of the ass. But because there's the setup where we get to see what is the trap, okay, it immobilizes people completely, and what does it actually do? Okay, it steals Chaos Emeralds. Good to know. And boom, Metal Sonic is defeated. Good little detail. And I think this is the first moment, now that he's kind of been defeated, he's been knocked out temporarily. Bang. Take a look at how he lands. He kind of flops to the ground like a doll whose strings has been cut. And look at how much he kind of bounces a little bit. So unlike the very stiff animation that was the hallmark of Metal Sonic all the time, is that he is completely stiff and doesn't really move unless he absolutely has to. Now that he's been turned off, he's a little bit more malleable. He's a little bit more slack, right? And that's a tiny detail that most people wouldn't really notice, but it's something that the animator bothered to spend a little time spending that little bit of extra effort to show us that he's gone completely slack, right? Which is quite good. And then the conclusion, which is just the best possible conclusion, because we get this anime final fight. Oh, that wasn't even my final form. Oh no. And then... Oh. And then angry red blur. And we can see once again the use of smear frames on the eyes in order to communicate the motion. I am as a god. You can practically hear One-Winged Angel play right here. Est ones interis ira vehementi. And then I just love this. Just Knuckles is just so angry. He just punches him right out of the emerald. Oh, it's such a good way to end it. Because, again, classic Sonic isn't modern Sonic. It's not about powering up to supersonic form and having Dragon Ball Z battles with the enemy. Like, that stuff is there, kind of, but that's not really what it's about. What it's about is this. It's just Knuckles kind of, my emerald. Just kind of walking out like nothing happened after. It's such a good way to end it. I love it a lot. And it's all, again, it's because Knuckles has already been set up as being like this. Like, that's the thing that makes it work, is that in the previous episodes when we saw Knuckles, that's exactly the kind of person that he is. He's the kind of person that... In fact, let's just see if we can't go and find it. Because I want to show it. I really do want to show it. Sonic Mania Adventures. Oh, they have all of them in one. That's actually practical. That's exactly the kind of person that Knuckles is. As indeed we see here, it's like, I have to protect the emerald. I have to protect it. It's mine. My emerald. I have to protect it. No one else can have. I'm Knuckles. I have to hide it with the leaves. Oh, someone's here. Protect the emerald. He's been set up as being this character who is kind of a little dumb, but also very powerful and just really cares about his goddamn emerald. And he's just been doing that like the whole way to the death egg. You can see he's been doing that the whole way, and then he gets there. And it's just like, at this point, he's so pissed off. That's like... It's just really good. Like, it's not that funny. I'm laughing, but it's not like it's a super funny, oh, it's the greatest joke I've ever heard in my life, but it's just so... It's informed by character. It has been set up in advance. It is informed by a consistent characterization of who is this person? What does he want? How does he go about acquiring it? And what happens when you take the thing he cares about away from him? Well, he gets really pissed off and he starts just punching things, even if they are as a god ascended, powered by all the power of the Master Emerald. Mahaha, I am the doom of the world. No. Bam! Punch in the face, get the emerald back. That's the character that Knuckles is, and it's so freaking good. Anyway, that's 28 minutes on the final episode. I said at the start, oh, this is going to be a shorter episode. I don't have that much left to say. Nah, I was lying, as usual. Just lying through my teeth. Anyway, I have loved these animated shorts a lot. I really, 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 really hope that SEGA will order a bunch of more of them, or maybe a TV series based on that. Like, I would not mind... like, just a bunch of these, a season on Netflix, like, whatever the case may be. Because this is the Sonic world that I love living in. This is the Sonic world that I adore inhabiting. And thank you very much for sticking with me through my sort of highly nostalgic, very happy little nerdy breakdown of all the good stuff that's going on with these animations. Yeah, I don't think there's really that much else left to say, except Sonic is cool again, and that's really nice, and I don't look forward to the live-action movie where he's partnering up with a human detective and Jim Carrey is gonna be the Eggman. I guess. I mean, maybe it's cool, Maybe it'll be funny, but it's not what I want from Sonic. I want this. I want more of this. Sega, please do exactly what I want and only what I want, and don't care about what anyone else wants, please. Anyway, my name has been TV's Guy, and thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, there's a like button down below that you can click. And, you know, that's there's a thing you can do. It's right there. You can click on it. And if you feel like it, you can also subscribe to this channel. I do videos like this every once in a while whenever there's some interesting animation that I want to talk about. I believe League of Legends has a animated short coming up shortly. Short. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be talking about that one. I'm quite excited for it. So if you want to watch me to talk about that one for a while, then this is the channel where you do that. If you didn't like the video, that's completely okay as well. There's a dislike button down below that you can use for that explicit purpose. I don't know why you've waited this long for me to tell you about it, but no, you do you. But I do have to warn you that if you click the dislike button, there's a 1 in 256 chance that Sonic 2006 will get a HD remaster on consoles, and then that's going to be the only video game that Sega publishes with Sonic in it for the next 15 years. It's a small chance, but it's there, and if it happens, and then we get nothing but Sonic 2006 from now on, don't blame me. You were the one to click the button. I'm just saying. It's going to be your own fault. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.